Hello, hello, fiends, and welcome to another horrific edition of Casey's Creepy Creations. Tonight, we have a truly nauseating little nugget that I wrote and narrated, which I like to call The Coder's Battle, a program to save humanity. As always, we caution that the above video is not suitable for children, and if you suffer from a weak heart, please watch at your own risk. The Coder's Battle, a program to save humanity. Dark clouds hung over the skyline as Jack Barnes approached the sleek glass building that housed Next Gen Innovations, the tech company that had just offered him his dream job. Jack, a talented programmer with an unshakable passion for innovation, had long fantasized about creating something big, something that would leave a legacy for generations. He believed this was his chance, but unseen forces lingered in the shadows, forces that had no intention of changing the world for good. Jack's journey would start with ambition and passion, but it would take him down a path of deception, discovery, and ultimately the fate of humanity itself. Jack's first day at Next Gen Innovations was a whirlwind. The sprawling offices, the advanced technology at his fingertips, and the cryptic whispers of a project described as revolutionary left him electrified. His boss, a charismatic yet oddly detached man named Dr. Fallon, explained in elaborate yet murky terms that Jack's assignment was to develop software capable of harmonizing human decision-making in ways never before imagined. A step toward global unity, Fallon hinted. Jack's curiosity burned. The possibilities seemed endless. For weeks, Jack immersed himself in his work, poring over complex algorithms and pushing the limits of his skills. Yet, as each day passed, he couldn't shake the feeling that something about the project didn't add up. Instructions were often vague, meetings were guarded, and his code began to feel intrusive, as though it was designed to do more than simply harmonize. It started small, but to Jack, it was unmistakable. Thrumming in the code he worked on were strings of conditional logic that triggered emotional responses, targeting specific behaviors. As he analyzed the framework, Jack found himself staring at lines that could manipulate thoughts on a fundamental level. One night, long after the last of his colleagues had left, Jack stayed behind, combing through the locked sections of the project files. He accessed portions of the code labeled as classified, only to find fragments of disturbing patterns, commands referring to the suppression of free will. Heart-pounding, Jack stepped away from his desk. He stared at the glowing monitors, unsure of what to do next. Was this just a misunderstanding, or had he been roped into something far darker than he could have ever imagined? Days later, Jack made a discovery that would shift his world forever. After bypassing several layers of encryption, he uncovered shocking evidence. Next Gen Innovations wasn't a tech company at all. It was the front for an alien invasion. The project wasn't revolutionary. It was a weapon. The aliens intended his program to broadcast mind control signals across the globe, enslaving humanity without a war, without a fight. Jack realized he'd become an unwitting accomplice to an intergalactic takeover. Inside him, a storm of guilt and defiance brewed. Could he walk away? Could he live with himself, knowing millions, billions, might be stripped of their free will because he had done nothing? Jack knew there was only one path forward. If the aliens wanted his code, he would use it against them. Fueled by resolve, Jack began crafting a counter-program, a disruptive piece of code that could break their mind control. But now the stakes had risen. Every keystroke had to be calculated. Every action had to be hidden. He couldn't let his bosses or their alien overlords catch wind of his plans. He worked late into the nights under the guise of improving the original software, while secretly forging the tools of resistance. The clock was ticking. In stolen moments of paranoia, Jack wondered if the aliens already knew, if they were watching, but there was no turning back now. Weeks turned into months, and Jack's counter-program began to take shape. It was a monumental challenge, like building a puzzle while blindfolded, working with technology that far surpassed human understanding. Stress bore down on him. He developed an almost paranoid vigilance, hiding his progress in layers of subroutines and encrypted files. He started sleeping in his office, half from exhaustion, half from fear of surveillance. Every time Dr. Fallon entered the room, Jack felt the walls closing in. And then came the announcement. The project was approaching its global launch. The aliens had set a date to activate their mind control program. Humanity's fate had an expiration date marked boldly on the calendar, and Jack was running out of time. With mere days until the launch, everything fell apart. Jack's odd hours, covert activity, and encrypted files raised suspicions. One evening, as Jack prepared to run a crucial test on a part of his counter-program, the alarms blared. Security descended on his workstation. "Mr. Barnes, step away from the computer," the voice of Dr. Fallon crackled over the intercom. Jack's heart pounded. He grabbed a flash drive containing his code and bolted from the room. The next moments were a blur of chase and chaos, the thudding footsteps of agents behind him, the flickering lights of sterile hallways, and Jack's racing mind calculating his odds of escape. Ducking into a maintenance shaft, Jack barely evaded capture, emerging hours later into the cold night air, clutching the one thing that could fight the alien invasion. From his dingy apartment, Jack worked tirelessly. Every second counted. As the launch loomed closer, millions of lives hung in the balance. Sleep was a luxury he could no longer afford. The day of activation came faster than he expected. Jack sat frozen in front of his monitor as reports flooded in, people suddenly freezing in place, their gazes glazed over. The aliens' mind control program was online. Neighborhoods, cities, nations fell silent, their populace enslaved by invisible chains. Jack took a deep breath. This was it. With trembling fingers, he uploaded his countercode into the network. And then he waited. The counter program surged through the alien system, causing subtle disruptions at first, hesitations in their control, glitches in their network. The enslaved began to stir. Confusion rippled through the affected populations, and then, like a rising tide, freedom began to spread. Not everyone was liberated. Jack's program wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Millions broke free from the aliens' grasp, their minds their own once more. It wasn't total victory, but it was the first glimmer of hope. But freedom came at a cost. The aliens weren't going to sit idly by. Their system roared to life, adapting to Jack's disruption, attempting to neutralize his code. Jack's monitors lit up with warnings. His counter-program was under assault. He worked frantically to reinforce it, buying humanity precious time. It was a desperate tug of war, an invisible battle that raged across digital fronts. His heart raced with every failed connection, every blinking error. When the chaos finally settled, Jack stared at his screen, utterly drained. He had done it. He had bought humanity time to fight back. millions had been saved, and the alien stranglehold on Earth was far from absolute. But Jack knew this wasn't the end of his journey. The cost of his actions weighed heavily on him. He couldn't go back to his old life, couldn't live as the man he was before. He would need to evolve, to keep fighting, just as humanity would need to rise together for the battles yet to come. Jack's code had sparked rebellion. Now, the embers of resistance would have to spread, one spark at a time. In a dimly lit room, with only the hum of his battered computer for company, Jack began to refine his counter-program. His eyes burned from exhaustion, but he couldn't stop. As the monitor flickered, something unexpected happened. A blip appeared. A faint, almost imperceptible signal rippled through his system. It was them. The aliens were still out there, adapting, planning their next move. Jack leaned back, the faintest glimmer of determination in his otherwise weary expression. The fight was far from over, and this time he would be ready. Well, boils and ghouls, we've come to the end of yet another terrifying tale. If you've liked what you've seen, please feel free to drop us a like, a comment, or maybe even a subscription. They may seem like little things to you, but they mean a lot to us here at the dungeon. If you liked the video and would like to find out how it was made, click the link in the description below. I am affiliated with Fleeky AI and will receive commission if you decide to make a purchase. They also have a free plan as well if you would like to try it out. And by the way, if you like what we've got for you here, then maybe you might want to check out these other YouTubers, Overlord DVD, Theta Zord, Osaka Chandal, and Stark of Iron. Links in description. They're to die for. Thanks and unpleasant dreams. Until we meet again.